Welcome back for the last wind of war for the spring equinox. This time the winds take us to Suak. The stars look down. Winter and sorrow. Winter in Suak this year is harsh. The wind howls down from Surku, bringing bruising hail and a heavy blanket of snow that smothers the ground while the northern lights dance balefully each night in the cold, clear skies. While the folk of Wintermark and the Imperial Orcs wrap their furs and leathers more closely around them and don fur-lined boots and gloves, not every Imperial soldier is ready for the cold. Chilblains give way to cases of frostbite, patches of dead skin particularly visible on the faces of the freeborn so far from their warm, dry plains. Marchers mutter about hard water and harder soil. At night, soldiers cluster close around campfires for warmth, passing warm spirits from hand to hand and relishing bowls of hot stew, as much for the heat they give off as the sustenance they provide. There is life here. Suak is not a wasteland. Quick white foxes and hares race across the tundra ahead of the advancing armies, and birds wheel in the pale sky as the wind snaps at the bright banners. It surges unnaturally in every lake and every bowl of snowmelt. The power of spring magic continues to flow through Suak. A few of the more pessimistic ice walkers worry what so many months of supernatural life might do to the plains, to the beasts, to the people. Whatever the eventual cost, for now the power of spring breeds life. It thrums in every mouthful of water, it gathers around every wound, gently and carefully soothing away any harm that is not fatal. Some winterfolk grumble. The magic leaves few scars to mark the heroic battle against the Jotun. Most are simply thankful that they are able to keep fighting no matter how terrible the press of battle proves. The Empire is not alone. As before, the armies of Eleonaris march alongside mortal soldiers. Some 1,500 elfin knights of the Fields of Glory, their gold and red armour shimmering in the lingering daylight from the far north. They seem untouched by the snow, walking across its brittle surface, leaving barely any mark of their passage, their hair and cloaks whipping around in the harsh north wind. They are full of fire and the joy of battle, but some mark a level of melancholy among them that has not been seen before. In between the battles, they are a little more reserved than they have been before, as if something they are not able to speak of is preying on their mind. Is it the Queen? Is all they will say. It is her mood. For all their tinge of sadness, they fight fiercely against the Jotun. Their spirits rise when they spot counterparts among the Western Orcs. It seems that at least one of the Jotun armies fights alongside a contingent of knights from the Summer Realm. Hulking orc-like figures crowned with sweeping antlers. The Summer Knights relish fighting against their peers. Merry laughter ringing out above the sounds of battle as they seek each other out in the fray. Battle is delayed for several weeks after the winter solstice. Following the defeat of the Queen and her champions during the solstice, the armies camped around the Suak city of Atalak withdraw in an orderly fashion north and west. The last to leave is the Queen herself, marching at the head of the line of the north. She pauses for a long moment to stare down at the armies of the Empire, preparing to claim the Suak town. For a moment it seems she might raise her banner in a salute, but she does not. Just turns and marches west at the head of her host. Atalak is taken cleanly, the historic town unharmed. The Jotun have left their newest thralls behind for the most part. Those Suak who were captured when the town fell are a mixed group. Few meet the eyes of their cousins when the town is liberated. They were given the choice. and they chose to be thralls rather than fight or die. They have sworn oaths to serve the Jotun Jarls. Oaths they now break. Many will become frayed in the weeks to come. Some will flee their shame. A few will keep their heads high, knowing that they made their choice for the right reason, and an oath given under duress is surely no true oath. Some Suak have kept their word. They fight alongside the Jotun now, or accompany the Orc armies as thralls. They keep their word, for all that it cost them everything. Their cousins among the free Suak argue long into the night about their decision, whether it is wise and courageous, or cowardly and treacherous. They fall silent when others join them, even their fellow Winterfolk. It breeds a little dissension in the ranks of the Winterfolk armies. Sealtock is liberated. The battle pauses. True to their word, the Jotun do not attack Atalak for the rest of the winter. They take up defensive positions. A great curve of spears arrayed among Sumasuak, all pointed at the Empire's precarious foothold in the south. The Imperial armies regroup, scout and launch an offensive west into Stark, following the departed Jarl of Jarls, the Queen of Calcea. The armies of Wintermark take great pains to fight with honour against their Jotun rivals. The Bloodcloaks in particular keep a keen watch to ensure their allies do not demean them, or that their cause is unworthy tactics. There are a few clashes between some of the Steiner in the army and the freeborn of the Redwind Corsairs, brought to an end when the Scops point out that rather than looting the dead like maggots, the warriors of the Brass Coast capture the champions of their enemies and ransom them, a practice that is both heroic and honourable. Apart from this minor scuffle, the Empire armies are united in their will to defeat the Jotun and take Sumasuak. But not at any cost. Return to the ford of Beresen. Almost immediately the Empire faces resistance. To Empire Stark from Sealtock means capturing the thick corridor of land between the lakes, between Atkonatok to the north and Rikivesi to the south. The Jotun are ready for the advance, a wall of steel across the land bridge. They have barricades, rough palisades, fenced camps. Numbers are of little help to either side unless one wishes to fight in the lakes. The ability to strike against the foe is heavily restricted. This suits the Jotun and many of the Winterfolk just fine. They are able to look their enemy in the eye as they fight, hero to hero, rather than army to army. At first it is a stalemate. Empire and Orc seem equally matched against one another. Then, day by day, camp by camp, the Jotun are forced to concede ground. Night by night, however, a truce holds. It feels a little more official than before, as Godi and healers move across the battlefields and search the rushes of the lakes to fin the wounded and the dying and bring them succour. Bobbing lanterns marking an intricate dance over the thin spit of land. In the end, the advantage comes thanks to the actions of a band of Imperial heroes, the perpetrators of a raid against the Jotun via the Sentinel Gate during the winter solstice. Their action created an opening, a weakness that the armies are able to exploit, a way around the Jotun defences that begins a slow push westward. Over the course of several weeks then, the Jotun are forced to retreat, and the fight comes once again to the ford of Beresen. Last time the Empire and the Jotun clashed over this shallow waterway, the Empire was defeated. The enchanted water of the lakes ran red, and only the intervention of the magical Hilli prevented the loss becoming a massacre. Last time, both armies were seeking to advance on the others. This time, however, the Jotun are on the defensive. The fighting over the last month has bought the Orcs time to construct a wall along the western bank of the ford. not an improvised barricade, but a solid structure of stone and hard wood brought from the Jotunlands to the west. Alongside the banners of the Queen and of the kin of Narkist flutter the red and white banners of Jarl Deren's Stone Tower, leader and general of the Tower of the North, some of the finest siege engineers in a nation famed for its prowess with stone and iron. It provides a solid defence for the Jotun and brings the Imperial advance to a grinding halt. For the better part of a month, the Empire and the Orcs are stalemated. The Jotun cannot push the Empire back, but neither can the Empire drive the Orcs from their positions. As the days stretch on, frustration grows. It seems as if the Empire has made as much progress as it is going to. There is talk of drawing back and pushing instead into Tannic Parry. The battle on the Atconartoc. Then, after a week of bitter nights cold enough to freeze the breath in your mouth, everything changes. There has been ice on the lake for most of the campaign, but it has been thin and treacherous. Scouts from all the armies have made use of it, but it has been too thin to support armoured soldiers. On a particular evening, almost exactly midway between winter solstice and spring equinox, the commanders of the Redwind Corsairs and the Fire of the South meet in private discussion. The next morning, their forces withdraw slightly eastward. There is muttering and grumbling among their allies. The Corsairs in particular seem to have been more interested in capturing and ransoming Jotun champions than in driving the Orcs out of Sermasuak. As the first probing strikes of the day begin, however, the freeborn armies charge. Not toward the wall, but across the frozen surface of the lake. The Jotun are taken completely by surprise. Some 10,000 freeborn, their numbers swollen by the Knights of Glory, flank the Orc position to the north. There is chaos. The first to recover are the Green Shields. With a roar they join the freeborn on the ice, just as the Orcs of the Howling Night emerge from their defences to meet the freeborn charge. The ice is stained red with blood as the armies clash on the surface of the lake. Inspired, the rest of the Imperial force presses the Orcs hard across the ford. It is impossible to say who first breaches the wall, but within minutes that crack is torn open, and the Empire's force spill through onto the western banks of Beresen. The Jotun are forced to drop back, sounding the retreat as the wall falls. And as it falls, with a thunderous retort, a great crack races across the frozen Atconartoc, straight across the middle of the battle raging on the ice. But it is the first of many, the ice cracking and breaking and shearing into smaller and smaller chunks. Some make it back to the dubious safety of the shore, to the chaotic melee, while others continue to fight on the ice floes. The water is murderously cold. Orc or human, few can survive its frigid embrace for long. Yet here, as before, the Empire is not without allies. From beneath the waters come the Hilly, arrow swift, catching as many of the fallen as they can and bringing them to shore, delivering them back to the blood cloaks, before driving back into the waters to find more. If there is a sorrow, it is that they cannot tell the Imperial Orcs from the Jotun, so rescue neither. Most of the casualties among the summer storm this season now lie at the bottom of the Atconartoc, side by side in the darkness with the warriors of the west. The ford of Beresen falls to the Empire, and it is several days before the Jotun are able to regroup and reset their defence. The Empire conquers the entire land bridge, securing it with armed camps of their own. As the spring equinox approaches, the momentum of their advance falters slightly. The ford is taken, but the Jotun have not been broken. If anything, their defences are even more secure here in Western Stark. Indeed, scouts report that while the Jotun have held the Empire at the ford, the bulk of the Tower of the North have been finishing the construction of a fortification along the southern shores of Lake Lansipari. While half their number and the knights of the Summer Realm who accompanied them fought alongside their peers at the ford, the rest were putting the finishing touches to a castle that will make it even harder for the Empire to continue their conquer of the region. A pause for breath. The fighting has been fierce, and while the spring magic of the Thule has preserved many lives, it cannot save everyone. Over 2,500 Imperial soldiers have fallen. The Jotun have lost significantly fewer, less than 2,000 by the estimation of the Blackthorns. The Empire has won, and thanks in no small part to the heroes who fought the Jotun during the winter solstice, they are perhaps 2/5 of the way towards claiming the whole of Stark. Some magicians express the opinion that without the aid of the Knights of Glory, the Empire would have made significantly less progress. The runesmiths scoff at these claims and say the key factor was the presence of some 8,000 troops under the command of independent captains, heroes, mostly fighting alongside the Green Shield. More sober minds suggest that a major factor was the strategy of Wintermark. Their commitment to fighting the Jotun with honour and focusing on defeating their enemies rather than simply killing them has helped swing the day in favour of the Empire, as well as continuing to remind the Western Orcs that the folk of Wintermark and the Jotun are more alike than they are different. Regardless, the Empire has won a victory here, and as the weather becomes warmer with the approach of spring, there is muted celebration. Celebration tempered by the knowledge that with the completion of the new castle, the tusks of the lion, their task has become significantly more difficult. And there you have it. The last Wind of War for our upcoming event. Thank you very much if you've listened to all of them for getting this far. I hope they've been of use to you. I know I find it a lot easier to listen to these than to read them all. I guess I'd get to do both this way, but there you are. As always, thank you very much, PD, for putting all of this together and for creating all these stories and these plot points for us to play with at the next event. I think that's everything. Thanks again, and see you in less than a week in a field somewhere near Silverstone. Bye!